Hey guys, this is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm going to be doing an overview of the brand new Inov8 F-Lite Max. So with this shoe, I have 5 first impressions I want to cover. I'll also discuss some sizing of this model, and then I'll have a full review that rolls out of the shoe in the next few weeks. But all that to say, my first impression with the shoe is I really enjoy the width of this model. Now, I bought my shoe from Roadrunner Sports. They said that they only had the medium option available. I actually got the wide option. I didn't ask for that, but I'm honestly pretty stoked that they sent me the wide option because now I have a good idea as to how wide the wide option actually is. And compared to other cross-training shoes, this is definitely one of the wider feeling options out in the market, and it doesn't have such an aggressive taper, which is pretty stereotypical for Inov8 shoes to have. So for example, with the Inov8 F-Fly, it has that nice wider anatomical toe box, but the midfoot is a bit more tapered, which can make it a little bit uncomfortable for folks with exceptionally wide feet. With this model, there is a bit of a taper. You will feel a tiny bit of arch, I think, but it's a lot less aggressive. And so that said, I think the shoe should work for a wider range of foot anatomies. And if you have that 2E, 3E, maybe even 4E width foot, this model might be worth considering. On top of that, this model's upper volume is pretty good too. And so for me personally, I have a double E to E width foot. I have to kind of crank the shoe down a lot regarding its midfoot and lacing because I need security with the shoe because it is a tiny bit wide for my needs. And I noticed that a bit more up here in the forefoot with the upper construction. So all that to say, if you have a wider foot, this model can be great, especially if you go with the wide option. If you have a narrower foot, go with the medium width option, but I'm actually not sure why I ordered a medium but got a wide and from Roadrunner Sports, so definitely keep that in mind. And if you go through Box Basics, I feel like you'll probably get a medium if they have medium, but again, you might want to actually ask their customer service before you buy the shoe at that. The second first impression that I have with this model is I really like their grip for rope climbs and just how functional they feel for more versatile workouts. So with this shoe, you have this rope guard tech here on the midfoot. It is wicked grippy. Honestly, when I was comparing this shoe to the Nike Metcon 1 regarding the rope climbing performance, I got more grip with this model. And so if you are very heavy with your feet for rope climbs, I think you'll enjoy that. You also have this like TPU / rubber overlay here on the midfoot that gives you additional protection support. It's actually just gripping so much that it still has some rope shred on it. So if you're somebody that needs that with your training shoes, I think you'll like that with this model. And I think you'll enjoy just how grippy this rubber is. And it's a bit more dense, so I don't think it's gonna break like we saw in the CXT1 trainer, which had those ridges that broke pretty easy. I have tried pretty hard to break this shoe and I have yet to do it. So I think that's a good sign with this model. My third first impression with this shoe is it has that Power Flow Max midsole, which I think does give it a fair amount of versatility. Up here in the forefoot, it's very lively. You have that Metaflex on the outsole here, so it breaks in relatively quick. And then back here, you have a bit of heel beveling. So all that to say, I think for versatile workouts where you're adding in some runs on the like curved treadmill, or if you just have short intervals outside, this model should work. But one thing I will say is with this TPU insert back here into the heel, if you're a heel striker, this model likely won't feel the best, even though it does have a slight beveling. And this TPU is going to be much more biased towards lifting and giving you stability there, but obviously it's not going to contribute to the comfort of the shoe for that vertical. But I think for the most part, and like compared to like a Nike Metcon 9 that has a really clunky heel that just doesn't even make it comfortable for running, I think this model does do a better job at kind of walking that fine line of giving you that stable TPU, but yet still giving you a bit more versatility for that training context. My fourth first impression with this shoe is I'm super stoked that Inov8 decided to put their boomerang footbed in this shoe. So if you are unaware, the boomerang footbed is this insole here. It has these little bumps on it. It's designed to give you a bit more energy return and a bit more proprioception with the shoe with this rigid texture here. It's designed to basically give you a bit more stimulus there. So I love that feature. I love when Inov8 puts that in their shoes. And I think if you're very similar, then you'll appreciate this as well. And you'll pick up on it right away. If you've never had this in your shoe, expect the insole to feel a little bit bumpy, especially if you wear thinner socks, but I do think you'll grow to appreciate it, and I would say probably give it a week to acclimate to this. My fifth first impression with this shoe is the tongue and the laces are interesting. So with the tongue, it is gusseted, but I noticed that it slides around a little bit when training, especially to the lateral side here. So as you can see, like both of my tongues, even just sitting here, they're slid to the lateral side. And I was having this and noticing this when I was training too. That was just something I picked up on. Didn't really hinder the performance of the shoe, but it's interesting that this tongue is gusseted, but this is still sliding. And I think it's because when I crank these laces down, there's just a lot of tongue material still. Like the tongue isn't super tight, which is good for high volume feet, but for folks like me who have to crank this shoe down, I think you will have a bit more tongue action in this model. And then also with the laces, they run a little bit long, like a little bit too long for my liking. I actually had to tuck this right lace in when I was training because it kept on hanging down way too close to the midfoot here, especially with rope climbs. So I had to readjust, retighten, and then tuck them in when I was having my session. So it's one of those little things that I feel like could be improved if they just shorten the laces on this. And then also, just while I'm talking about laces actually too, if you do have to crank your shoes down like me, you will have this overlay down here at the bottom of the midfoot. We see this often with cross training shoes that have slightly wider forefoots. When you crank those laces down, you start to get some overlay there. This isn't the biggest deal, I don't think, in my opinion, with this model, because there is enough upper volume to where it doesn't press, but it isn't the most aesthetically pleasing feature on this shoe. All in all though, this shoe has done an exceptional job. I think it adds more range to the Inov8 models, and honestly, I'm stoked for my full review because I have a lot of thoughts for this shoe regarding its lifting performance and its cross-training performance, and I will share those in the very near future. But all that to say, when it comes to sizing, and if you're thinking about the shoe and buying the shoe before that review, I would say go true to size for most athletes and lifters. So go with the same size that you wear in Adidas and Nikes with this model. Now, that said, if you have a narrow foot width, you may want to pass on this shoe, especially if you could sit the wide option like me. Because again, I have an E to double E width foot, and this model's forefoot is almost pushing it for my needs regarding just being a bit too spacious at times, if I'm being honest. I have to really crank these laces down to get the security I want out of this model. So that is just food for thought there, but true to size I think should be the call. And if you have wide feet, I think you're gonna love this model and try to find the wide option, or go through Roadrunner Sports, because even though they offer the medium option, they sent me a wide, and I think they're probably doing the same for other lifters and athletes. But with this shoe, I have been pleasantly surprised. I feel like Inov8 is really trying to improve on their training shoe lineup, and it's giving us more options, and I love that they're steering into giving more options to wider feet. But if you have additional questions on this shoe in the meantime, before my full review rolls out and you plan on buying them before I get to that, drop a comment down below and I'll help you out accordingly, or hit me on Instagram, whichever you prefer. As always, y'all, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.